Hi, this is the Social Jello with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Jello with Angelo show.
What's up, and welcome to Social Jello with Angelo podcast. Today I'm here with GM Kingi. This is part of a special series. I'm going to pull up my notes, make sure I don't mess this up. The Kajukenbo Belt Requirements series. It's a brand new series, and this is the first video of the series. So one of my listeners contacted me and wanted to know, because Kajukenbo is, oh my gosh, I'm trying not to fall into the what is Kajukenbo. I've done this too many times. Let's just say that at the end of this episode, there's a What is Kajukenbo podcast where I get together with a group of people, panel people, and they talk about that. So if this is your first episode of Social Jello with Angelo podcast, I hope you enjoy it. Kajukenbo is a martial art coming from Hawaii, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that because I want to give as much time to GM Kingi to explain these requirements before we get started. So a quick wrap up. This series, because Kajukenbo has so much liberty amongst its practitioners, to put it lightly, every different method in school has different requirements depending on where you come from. So my listener was very confused and wants me to break this down. Now, I don't know. This might be like a lifetime project for me because there's so many Kajukenbo schools out there, but I will try my best to get some leaders in the Kajukenbo community to come in and explain what their belt requirements are. And I'm going to tell just a quick disclaimer. These belt requirements are by these schools. And as you go through these series, you'll probably notice some similarities and differences depending on the person I interview and the school and background and methods they come from. I feel like a damn lawyer. Okay, so now that I got this all out of the way, I want to say a big mahalo and thank you to GM Kingi for coming out and sharing the requirements. GM Kingi, just real quick, for those people who don't know you, what are you all about? Where are you coming from? What part of the tree? Well, for people that don't know what the tree is, there's a Kajukenbo tree. The lineage, if you want to make it easier.
First of all, thanks for having me on. I look forward to this, and I've watched your other podcasts, and I like the ones with John Hackelman. That's a good guy right there. So I started Kajukenbo in 1962 under Carlos Bunda, or great grandmaster Carlos Bunda. He studied under John Leoning, the late John Leoning, and John Leoning was the guys that created Kajukenbo in Hawaii in the 1940s. So he's a part of the Sijo and all the rest of the guys that came from there. I've had my school now for 42 years. I got my black belt in 68. And in 1969, I started teaching in a garage. I started teaching in my brother's garage for about 4 years. And I went to my in-laws garage for about another 4 years. Then in 1981, I decided to open up a studio. But it's an art that I love, and like I say, right now I'm 77. Yeah, 77 down. 77 years old. And still active today. In fact, in Las Vegas at the last tournament, I competed in forums in the 50 and above division. I took third place. These guys were 50 years and above. And if somebody didn't beat me, there was something wrong out there, because I'm not half of what I used to be back then. But I'm active. I enjoy it. Like I say, we've opened our school, had it for 42 years. In 2011, I actually turned the school over to my son, Professor Robert Kingi. And after that, I had idle time, and I didn't realize how much I missed Kajukenbo when I didn't have to go down there. So I actually started a 4-year-old division of a class, a 4 or 5-year-old class, and a 5 to 6-year-old class. And the 7-year-olds, they go to his class. And it's been great, staying busy teaching. And 3 weeks ago, this is December the 1st, I had probably my last black belt that I had this from white belt up to black that just got his black belt. It was a student. He got his junior black belt. He came back after 15 years and said, "Hey, I want to get my black belt." I said, "Okay, well, it's going to take you about 2 years, even though you got your junior black belt back then." But he got it, and it was a great test. So that's basically what I'm about. I'm active. I teach. I travel around. I do seminars. I don't promote people. I don't go around saying this is federation and this, all that there. I just go out and teach. And that's what I love to do. That's what I'm about.
Well, congratulations to your student. What was your student's name? The one that just
Pardon me?
the
Oh,
the
Elijah
student
Elijah Gray.
Elijah Gray.
Yeah,
Congratulations, Elijah Gray.
yeah. He was on Facebook.
That's an awesome
Yeah.
accomplishment. So, if someone were to walk in to Kingi's Kajukenbo right now, what would they have to do? What would they have to learn to work through way through their system? And I'm going to let you. You could answer this question however you like. If you want to break it down by belt, you can, or if you just want to jump straight to the black belt and talk about everything you're looking for in a black belt, I'll let you
Yeah.
figure out what you want to say for that one.
It's not a problem. So if let's say an adult comes into school, 20-year-old, 25, 30-year-old, whatever, and they want to join the school, usually they don't ask how long does it take to get a black belt or anything. They want to join the school and learn. But if they do ask, which I've had people do, I say it probably takes between 5 or 6 years of being there at least 3 days a week, constantly, to get your black belt. You go just like everybody, yellow, orange, purple, blue, green, brown, and black. For each one of those belts, you should be learning a form. And when I say learn the form, not just do the form, you should understand the fundamentals of all the forms. You know exactly what you're doing, because when we teach form, you're fighting multiple attackers. We concentrate on the first lessons on somebody is their footwork. And I guess some people call it the clock. We call it the octagon. And we have 4 directions in that octagon. We got up, down, sideways, and in a 45-degree angle. So they have to learn all the foot movement. Just like a boxer, you can't block all the punches coming at you. When you see people doing blocks and stand up there and holding their hand up and then waiting 2 seconds, then pop, 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 they waited a couple of seconds. That stuff don't work in real life. I mean, it's just like the reason they created Kajukenbo, to make it realistic. For instance, Tang Sudo, which is a part of our system. In real life, I mean, Chuck Norris was a great person and was a great martial art tournament fighter, full contact fighter, and a actor. But in reality, I've never seen him throw that back spinning heel kick and hit somebody in the head in a ring. You can do it on TV, but in real life. So they took stuff like that, threw it out of the system, and said, hey, we're just going to go to these things that are practical. So we teach that practical part about Kajukenbo. We teach the fact that you have to understand that you're going to get hit. Being hit doesn't always mean it hurt. So if we get into a fight, we're going to get hit. We're going to get hit, and we're going to get hit. Nobody gets away without getting hit. So we get them over the fear of fighting, get over the fear of contact. Through that process, we teach them all their self-defense techniques. So you have X amount of self-defense techniques for each belt, X amount of grab a knife techniques for each belt, and it all accumulates to the time for your black. But one thing that we do, which I know a lot of other studios don't do, so let's say you've been with me for 3 years and you're going through your green belt requirements. Well, you will be doing all your white belt, yellow belt, orange belt, and purple belt and blue belt requirements, because I want to make sure you didn't forget any of those requirements, and then you'll do your green belt stuff. So we tell people, hey, whatever you learn the first day, you keep it for the rest of your life. Now, when I have my black belts test up for their 2nd degree, their 3rd degree, they say, well, what am I going to have to do? I said, I don't know. I'll tell you test day. I mean, just everything I know that you're supposed to know, just be prepared to do it. If you can't, you guess you won't be ready to test. So that's basically the foundation of X amount of forms up to that certain point, all your time on the floor. And then our brown belts requirement for the black belt is the brown belts have to give back. So they have to be able to teach. So we give brown belts a few white belts when they come in. And I said, I want to see you prepare these people for their yellow belt. And, this actually makes them a better brown belt, because teaching makes you a much better martial art, because you teach, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to set by example, because you teach, right? So that's basically our foundation.
So if I were to break it down, how many self-defense techniques, I guess, because you mentioned punch. Write this down. Punch, grab, knife. You said knife too, right?
Yeah, knife, stick, takeaways.
Club. Okay. So about how many? We'll just start with punch. About how many punch self-defense techniques does a black belt need to know?
So we have our version of John Leone of 11 punch arts, 11 grab arts. Then we have the traditional 11 punch arts and 11 grab arts. So right now we're at 44.
Oh, okay. let me clean this up.
Then we have what we call rotations. And then you have another 10. So we're at 54 right there.
Okay. And that was just, we're just talking about punch grab right now, right? That's
they're still punch and grabs, all of those.
Okay. Okay. So we have the traditional punch and grabs, then we have some variations of punch and grabs, and then we have one more variation of punch and grabs. Right. So we're already like at about 10, 23. We're at 60, about 60. Yeah. So about 30 for punch and 30 for grab right there.
Right. And you have some that, when a person is stepping in, throwing a left-right combination, then you have somebody that's holding the ground and unloading a right hand. So there's a difference, how the guy attacks you.
Okay. So follow-ups and different sequences. And then for the knife, about how many knife defense?
We have 10 knife and 10 stick takeaways.
Okay. Right.
And now, when we teach the knife and stick takeaways, we always tell the students, this is going against a non-knife fighter or a stick fighter. Because a lot of stuff you see people teaching with knife and sticks, you'll get cut to death, in real life. Because you got to, I tell people, if a guy comes at you and he has the knife in his left hand out and he's standing in front, well, you got a good chance to take that knife away and beat him down. If he has the knife in the back with his other hand out in front, you're probably in trouble. And if he has it Filipino style with his knife in the back, you're probably going to get cut up pretty bad. So you have to recognize the person that you're fighting. Does he know how to use the knife? Does he know how to use the sticks? So we used to say the guy picks up a board, he picks up a bat, right? Now, if I'm walking down the street right now and I see a screaming guy want to rock around, I'm gonna get away from him. I don't want him breaking my knuckles.
Yeah, it's always a shocker to a student when you actually put them from, okay, here's our knife defense technique, and then okay, now we're gonna do a drill where the person's actually trying to stab you. Let's put this into action. There's always like that shock in the student, like, oh my gosh, this pace is totally different from what I thought it was gonna be. So look, oh, go ahead.
And one of the most important things is that we tell the students. In fact, I'm gonna ask you the question: what's the purpose of learning self-defense techniques, grab arts, punch arts?
To defend yourself. To defend yourself in a real situation. That's why you should be learning it, in my opinion.
And actually, what it is, you're right on defend yourself, of course, but what it is to help you develop a reflex and a reaction. I might have punch art 1 and 2, and I may have never used it in my life, but I might have used a combination of those. So the most important part about learning these self techniques is the reality of me really punching at you, but for me to react, how to react. You studied with the under the Abad lineage and stuff. Do you guys have this traditional where you grab a guy's arm, strike him in the face, push him off? Well, using that, for example, is a guy might come at me. I might go, oh, no, please don't grab me. And he grabs a hold of me. A person untrained would be like, oh, no, but I'll do it like this and strike him. So it just helps you develop a reaction, a reflex, a response. And that's the whole purpose of it. You may never use one that you learned. I've never seen anybody in a MMA ring use anything like that.
Well, it's funny, right? When you break down, I say, you might not ever use one, but you'd be surprised. You might not use one whole sequence because we always have like these sequences with different steps. Sure. You might not use the whole sequence, but you'll definitely see 1 or 2 or maybe 3 parts of those sequences in the people that we train. And sometimes when I'm looking at MMA footage, I'll see stuff. I'll be like, hey, that's punch number 2 in our system. It's not the whole thing, but it's the beginning part of punch number 2. Instead of doing the down block, they did a parry, but the principle is the same. It's the
exactly
same. It's the same thing. So
exactly.
Looking at your system here, if I counted this right, we had about 60 for punch and grab, 10 for knife. That's 70, and that's 80. Is that right? 80?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I got it. The math is not my strongest subject, but those are easy numbers to round.
And but like I say, it's a lot of stuff. but you do them over and over again. And like I said, our classes, regardless of what belt level, we do things over and over and over. We do number one. If I'm getting ready to teach, say, number 7, well, before I teach 7, I have everybody go, because we're talking about like advanced class. Everybody's going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I want to make sure they know it now. We go to 7. So that's one of the things that we do a lot of.
Now, so we got the defense out of the way. How many forms by the time they hit black belt? Because you were saying 1 form per belt. So my quick estimate was maybe 8. Is that probably more than 8.
From our lineage, from John Leone, we have 8 traditional forms.
Oh, kind of right. Ooh.
All right, 8 traditionals that was brought from Hawaii. John Leone was the first person to come from Hawaii and bring Kajukenbo to the United States. He was the first person to come over. And my teacher always says he never had time to change anything. So that's where our forms came from. We have also some Gukfu forms in there, and we have a couple other forms that are related to Kajukenbo, but they're not our traditionals. But our black belts have to know, I think it's 13 forms, besides their traditional 8. And they have the one called the Flamingo, which is a Chinese form. Yeah.
So we have the 8 traditional ones, and then 5 more other forms on top of the original.
Yeah.
Those original 8, are those part of, like, do they look anything like the Pinyon Palama sets, or is that?
Well, they are.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's
Number 1, block, 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 cross block, grab punch. Yeah, they're one thing when you see Kajukenbo, if the pioneers, everybody changed a little something here or there. If I'm a judge at a tournament and a guy is doing Kajukenbo form, I'll recognize something. I have to. If not, I'll say, hey, I don't know where you got that form, but this is represent Kajukenbo. Now, I was in South Carolina, and a group over there, in fact, they're under, they came from the Bod lineage. Herb, what's his name? One of Alan Abad's best guys. In fact, Rod knows him real well. We went to South Carolina, and these guys wanted to make sure they were Kajukenbo. So I went down there, and I watched them do this seminar, and I went, oh, okay. Then I watched the tournament. Then about 8 of them came to my room afterwards and said, hey, what do you think about this? And I said, you guys got the Aloha spirit. Everything was great. But I only saw one person do anything that was related to Kajukenbo. And one guy had about 20 students. They were running around. They had black T-shirts on, yellow T-shirts on, green T-shirts on. And so I said, hey, the guys with the black T-shirts, are they black belts? He goes, no. And I said, why do they have black T-shirts on? Because Kajukenbo traditionally is red and black. Students wear black T-shirts. Black belts wear red T-shirts. And we are so strict at that at our school. Nobody will walk in that school with a black T-shirt on if they're not a black belt. I mean, I've yelled out and screamed, hey, get out. Take that shirt off before you come in here. It might be raining outside. You do not come in there with a shirt like that, because I know what everybody had to work through to get their black belt, that black T-shirt. When we have our tests, it's always funny because after all the beat downs and all the stuff and all the sweat and all the tears, and we go through the celebration and we tie their belt on them and everybody hugs and stuff, everything is over. And I go, oh, hey, forgot something. And I bring out the T-shirts. And that's when the guys just break down. I mean, that to me, that's the biggest part. So to us, black T-shirts, if you're not a black belt, don't wear one in my school. I'm old school, old fashioned.
As you know, I'm in Japan. So one of the hardest things is getting between Japanese culture, American culture, getting them to understand American culture, and then having, it's difficult explaining Kajukenbo to an American, let alone a Japanese person. So I'm always telling them there's some things that I'm not that strict on, but I remind them, hey, if you go to some other Kajukenbo school though, and you do that, you'll get kicked out. Like, sometimes they think I'm joking. I'm not joking.
Oh, no.
I'm not joking. Like, I'm a little lax, and I'm telling you guys, I'm a little lax. But you go somewhere else and you do something like wear a black T-shirt, don't tuck in your T-shirt. This shit's gonna come back to haunt you. Like, I'm just warning you right now. And then, sure enough, I took one of my students out to to visit John Hoylo. He comes from the Gaylord method, to go do a cross training with them. And one of my students, who's a police officer, so he should know better, he forgot to tuck in his t-shirt. He got called out so quick. And he looked at me, and I looked at him like, I told you this would happen. Like,
Did somebody tell me, hey, what do you have, a dress on? Yeah, we don't play with that either. That's it right there.
So far we said 13 forms, 8, and then for those of you who are not Kajukenbo, but we're trying to keep up with this, the piña. Oh yeah, do you call them piñons or palamas?
We call them forms.
You call them forms, okay. So
yeah, that's funny because all that Sifu, Sigun, piñons, in 1962 there was no such thing. When I talked to my teacher, my teacher, who was great Grandmaster Carlos Boone now, I call him Carlos. John Leone, his teacher. Hey, John, we didn't do the titles and stuff like that. We didn't do the Kajukenbo prayer. We were strict about our training, the discipline, but we didn't have all the titles. In fact, I think it was around 1980 something when I was called Sifu, and I remember I was at Ralph's Markets, big market out here, and over the intercom I heard them say something about seafood. I'm looking around, I'm going, well, they know I'm in the market or something? But they were talking about the seafood section. But we didn't use those titles. That it's over the years it's came more because everybody's got more educated about what Kajukenbo is and what the tradition is and the language and stuff like that. Sifu, Sigun. So I appreciate it now, but I don't make a lot out of it.
And then so you just pretty much just call them the form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
exactly.
8, 9, 10. You simplify it that way.
Then we have one that's called beginner's form, which is the first form we teach. It has all the Kajukenbo stuff in there. It's almost like the clock. And then we have Kung Fu forms. There, one's called the Fabingo, and yeah. In fact, your number 11 is called the Dance of Death, right?
Okay, so in the system I came from, so the way I told you earlier, I'm like, you got to be careful what you say because you don't want to get people mad. So I'm just gonna that's my disclaimer. I'm gonna have to display myself on this one. So I don't know if this is gonna ruffle any feathers, and I'm just gonna throw it out there. And sorry to now Professor Ronnie Usagiri if this ruffles feathers, and I'm sorry, brother. I'm just gonna say it. In his system, he calls them Palama sets.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes for me in particular, and he changes things per student. This is where things get confusing because some students, he always says, if you got a black belt from me 10 years ago, my new black belt may look different from the 10-year ago black belt because you know him, he just keeps learning more forms. Like he's an animal. He just keeps going and going and going and adding. So I probably have a different set of forms. He always says Angel's got a different set of forms because that's what he was here from this point that time, and I started learning that and I added this. So for me, I wanted to say that out there. Hopefully I'm giving him enough wiggle room to explain this later. For me.
Hey, Roddy, I asked the question, so don't get mad at him. And Angie, don't get mad at him.
The best part is I'll probably, what I'm about to say, he might come back and be like, it's not 7. I taught you 8. You forgot number 8. Well, what I'm going to say is he taught me 6. He taught me 6 Palama sets. And I remember the day, because I think when I started, there was 3. Yeah. He's probably getting mad. He's going to get so mad at me about this. When I started, there was 3. And one day he went to go work with Rod, and he came back. It might have been Rod, it might have even been Alan. And he came back and he was like, we're going to do 5. I know I told you all you had to learn 3. We're going to go to 5 now. So we're going to have 5 Palama sets now. And I think he went out and maybe he picked, like I said, he brought them in. I'm like, all right, so now we got 5 and we have another form called Chito. So for me, I could say us, and I'm trying to not say us because there's probably other guys that have more. I got 6. I got 6 Palama sets. 6.
Okay.
And number 5 is a variation of open
Five,
hand.
five and six, closed and open hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's where he stopped with me. He got 6, and then I have a bunch of other kung fu forms. So I don't have 11. And then he told me, if you want to get up to the higher numbers, you can let me know if you want to do that. And I respectfully declined. Now, so I don't have number 11. I don't have number 11. In answer
Okay.
to your, but the dance. Now the funny thing is, you said the dance of death. Now I'm gonna wonder. The dance of death is the same dance of death that I was shown. I was shown something called the dance of death during a self-defense follow-up, where after you've thrown the guy down, you start working different knee drops and leg like stomps and ground and pounds from different positions from south, north, like you go around and you strike the guy in a circle while he's down.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's the same dance of death.
No,
That's what
no, that's a little different.
That's
Yeah.
different. Okay.
It's the one where you go like this and you go like this. Anyway, so
Okay.
you know, when it comes to the forms, like the late Alan Abad, Gary Forback, and myself, our forms are pretty close to being identical. There's very, very little changes. Right? Then they have these forms that were added to it. Like I said, the ones that we had added, Gary then would recognize, or Alan would recognize. So in Hawaii, their form number 11 is the form that you do when somebody passes away. I did it at C. Joe's funeral in Maui, and it's a strong form that, you know, I try to wake him up in his coffin. You know, that's a strong, hard form, but it's called the dance of death. To us, it's our number 8. But everybody has a little different something, like I said earlier, about their forms, and you know, nobody's requirements are the same from one school to another school. Now, anybody that's under my system, then their requirements are all the same. I work with these guys in Texas. I work with the guys in Boston and Massachusetts, and so they're learning all of my forms, all of our self-defense techniques. Yeah.
And now I'm wondering even more, because I know, and I don't want to make this so personal. I want to go, but I'm wondering. Is your form number 1? Is the opening the Kajukenbo? You know, you start up, you do your kick, you do your salute, you do your X block, and you start with the cat stance punch. Is that?
No.
Okay.
We do.
Right.
Ours after the cross block, we step back, outward block, step back, downward block, inward block. Then we walk forward, cross block, cross block.
All right. So the only difference is that first. The only difference in mine is that first stop, that first cat stance punch, and then right after that, that whole sequence you just mentioned is thrown in. So the exact same blocks, same sequence, same to the one side to the other side, everything from there. Just that first beginning is different. But I always say, because I did this with John Hoylo from the Gaylord method, and we sat there and did our first set, and we did a video of it, and you can find it on YouTube. I think it's on my channel and his channel.
Yeah.
And we were looking at it, we're like, this part's different, but there's a section here where we're both doing the exact same thing, and then you do something a little different here, a little different there, but then at the very end, it looks exactly the same here.
So yeah, I did it in Hawaii with Clarence Looney. Used to have his memorial services or for C. Joe, and so I had 8 professors and grandmasters. I think it was 8 or 10, all come up. And I said, we're all going to do our number 1 pinyon together. I said, but I know everybody has this, they do this, and they do a bunch of little other things before they go back to the step back block. So I said, I'm going to count 1, and on 1, you do whatever you do until you get to the point before you're ready to step back. And so I said 1, everybody did all the boom, boom. You know, I came back to my stance, and some people were still moving, had about 3 little extra movements. Then we started off, pow, all the other movements, you know, and it just shows that there's a little variation, but not a whole lot. But I don't know where a lot of the people have these other movements that they do a lot of different things before they start the form. Horse stands, come straight up, drop back down, and you know, yeah,
they're just trying to show off.
Yeah, and why not? It's showtime. Yeah, you know, I don't know. Were you aware that, you know, I really helped Angie, Ron, all these guys get, you know, because they were, when Alan passed, you know, of course, you know the history of Alan dropping out of Kajukenbo and starting his own system, and a lot of guys like, I can't give up my 8th degree, to go down to a 3rd degree in a different system. But they were kind of like just on their own. So I came through and I helped Philip Dang, Angie, and all those guys get to the recognition where they're supposed to be. Even the girlie about had to make sure she got her promotion up to grandmaster. I believe in when somebody is learning something from somebody and that person has passed away or they have nobody else, that they don't need to go under somebody else. They could just carry the carry on the lineage of the person they trained with, and that's what I usually end up doing a lot of.
And not to completely lose everyone who doesn't know the background, and if you don't, I interviewed Angie and she talked about that. So if you're looking at this show again, if you go into my Kajukenbo method series or my Kajukenbo interviews, she's there and she talks about how after her father passed away, a lot of stuff got like he had everything written down, and before he passed, I was at those last few meetings. I was lucky enough to be there and hear him talk about what he wanted to see happen after he passed, and he had it all written down, and a lot of that stuff got lost in a fire. So it was really just one tragedy after another.
Sure.
With that family. So it's really good to hear about, well, the support that they got from the community to continue to move forward. But I'm going to try to reel us back to the topic.
Back into the requirements.
Yeah, back to our requirements.
Right.
So far, if I was listening correctly, we have our 8 forms, our 8 basic forms, and you added a few more, hitting 13. We summed it up to be about 60, 70, 80 self-defense techniques. And what else are you looking for? So far, we've summed up techniques and forms. What else are you looking for your black belt before that happens?
One of the most important times is his time on the mat. His time that he's given back also, like I said, they as brown belt requirements, they have to learn how to teach. They got to make sure they're able to teach, able to do what they're teaching. Time on the mat, like I say, the most important thing is all the footwork, all the basic footwork. Everybody can punch and kick, but it's all the footwork is what's going to get you to where you are right now, to that black belt. So it's a journey. That's all there is to it. It's a journey. And I carry the kendo stick. And when I'm teaching them 45 or castets, I come swinging at the top of their head, and I mean, I'm swinging and they know it because I'll watch them and they'll be doing the movement. And I say, that's all you got? I said, if you're not going to give me 100%. And I said, well, here, give me that stick. And I stand over them. I say, ready? Whoa, bam. And all of a sudden they just picked up stuff. So I try to make them understand, I preach this, how you practice is how you turn out. You practice weak, you're going to turn out weak. You practice strong, you're going to turn out strong. Simple as that. It's written all over our school.
So,
but yeah, the 8 requirements, the 8 forms, all the self-defense techniques. Now, when a person goes from his first to the second to the second to the third or something like that, he doesn't have to do all those. He has to show me. I want to see all his forms for sure, and then I get a combination of give me some punch arts, some grab arts, like that.
What about in terms of fighting, sparring? What are you looking for your belt requirement out of someone who's going to test for their black? What kind of ability? What are you looking for out of them in that area?
Yeah, be ready to take ass whipping because it's going to happen, and we make sure of that. But no, the whole process of coming from white to black belt, it's all combined. You're going to be fighting all the way through. So I know by the time that you take your black belt, I know that you can fight. I know that because otherwise I'm not going to have you test, and I know. And then when we have our black belt test, I don't know if you ever seen it on Facebook. We have 30 black belts, 25 black belts there, and they're chomping at the mouth waiting for the fighting time. So we make the brown belts that are getting ready for their test. They have to fight each other very hard. The point fighting, we do a lot of street fighting, So by the time they finish fighting each other, now it's time for the fights of black belts. And they're tired. Their gis are soaking wet. Their arms hurt. These fresh black belts try to kill them. They just beat them down. So it's just being able to take it and just love what you're doing.
And then the what are the rules for that sparring? You mentioned a distinction between point sparring and street fighting. What are the street fighting rules for your sparring?
Street fighting rules? Oh, you can't gouge your eye. Can't make somebody blind.
That's it.
Yeah. Hey, it's a street fight. Takedowns, beat downs. Yeah. No, it's serious business.
Yes, something I always tell my students is that the rules define the fight. Don't forget the rules define the fight. And they ask me, well, what's the difference between MMA sparring and Kajukenbo sparring? And I'm like, well, let's just very similar to you said. I said no serious biting, and no eye gouging.
Right.
And I don't want anyone going to the hospital for some sort of serious surgery like that. When we're done here, I want everyone.
I don't want you to break. I don't want you to kick the guy in his knee and try to break his knee.
Yeah. I don't want anyone going to the hospital. But
you can kick him in his thigh, kick him in his calf, hurt the shit out of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's not try to break anything or gouge and make somebody blind.
Yeah.
And like I said, from white to black, people have developed the skills, and they know what they can do and what they shouldn't do. And so we're going to be doing some real tough body shots, especially, and head shots, especially my son Robert. He's sitting over there. He just can't wait, because he's the king of the throne right now down there. And he's just, we got, in fact, that the last black belt test that he had, the one I had, the guy that got his black belt, Robert sparred with him, touched him up pretty good, right? Then afterwards went to bow, and the guy went like, oh yeah, that's it. And I went, oh my God, he don't know what a mistake he just made. Robert said, okay, yeah, we'll go a few more minutes in. And that guy afterwards, he said, man, I'm so sorry I did that. Because Robert can hit very hard. He'll punch your body out. But there's a lot of spirit down there.
Well, I think is there anything I missed? Is there anything you feel you missed in that, as far as someone starting from the very beginning to the very end and what you're looking for out of them at your school?
I don't think so. Like I say, it's the journey is 5 to 6 years. I mean, you can go someplace and get a black belt in 2 years and come down to my studio and my orange belts will whip your ass. But it's, everybody has their own way of doing things. I can't knock anybody else's way of, having X amount of forms or self-defense. You do what you do. Just when you tie on that belt, everything has to do with integrity. And I know that when people tie on their belt at our school, they've earned it. They actually appreciate what they did. And I always tell them, you got your black belt January 2023, you'll earn it January 2024, because it takes a year to grow into it, and it don't happen overnight. It still takes a while to grow into.
All right. So, and that's one thing I want to say to everyone listening again. The reason I'm making this series is not to cross compare, because I've had other people try to do that once. I forgot. I did a whole other series based on someone trying to cross and compare. Oh yeah, the Kajukenbo method series, which is a different series, where I have the person break down their method of Kajukenbo, whatever they practice, to kind of just talk about that. The listener asked me which one I think is the best for self-defense. And this was in a private conversation, and my answer was, I really can't make that kind of qualification. It would be based off my opinion, which would not really be valid, because I can't, if someone is in Kajukenbo and they're doing something I was taught was to respect other Kajukenbo practitioners, no matter what.
Exactly.
So even if it's not something that I particularly may personally, right? Some people, it's like ice cream, right? Some people like vanilla, just vanilla, and some people like Metropolitan, some people like sherbet. And I'm not going to go up to someone eating their ice cream and knock it out of their hand and be like, you suck. You like chocolate? What's wrong with you? That'd be messed up to do. So so I really try to avoid that kind of a thing. And I want to say the same thing about this series here too. I'm not trying to cross and compare methods or approaches to Kajukenbo, the reason I'm interviewing everyone is because I just want everyone to see the differences, that there are differences and why there are differences and how, and maybe and similarities, because I'm sure any Kajukenbo person listening to this, a lot of the stuff you said, they're like, yep, that's in our school, that's what we do too, you know. And there's always going to be that kind of a moment. And maybe some of you that don't do Kajukenbo, maybe you're listening for and you do Muay Thai or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or some other style, there might be stuff that we just said, you're like, oh yeah, we got some of that too. And that's mostly what I'm looking at is
that's the truth though. No, I appreciate what you're saying, because that's exactly the way it should be. It should be measured from one school to another school. But it's the end results that matter, you know. And when it's time to need it, that's when it matters. So
yeah,
how you train is how you turn out.
Yep. And at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this, right?
Yeah.
Well, I really want to say a big mahalo again. Gracias. Thank you very much, GM Kingi, for coming out.
Sharing, you can say domo arigato too.
Yeah, arigato gozaimasu.
Wakarimasu nihonjin, right? Wakarimasu nihonjin?
私は日本人じゃないけど、なんか、奥さんは日本人です。
So that's got, see?
And all my listeners like, what?
What the heck are these guys doing right here? Huh?
Is there a glitch in the system?
Bottom line is I love Kajukenbo. I love where I am in Kajukenbo. I love teaching Kajukenbo. I love watching the kids. I'm very fortunate because, like I say, we've had our school 42 years, and my wife is involved. All 4 of my kids and my grandkids are involved. We just came back from a tournament, and one of the guys happened to be standing in the stands, and he was videotaping down. And my granddaughter, Kiyomi Kingi, was working with 2 lower belts, helping them get ready for their form. And when I saw that, it just touched me so much. As there's part of our legacy. It's just I'm looking at a lot of more years of Kingi's Kajukenbo.
How many generations is that?
That's 3 from me to my sons to my son's kids.
3 generations.
3 generations, you know, and solid generations. I don't know if you ever seen the video of my grandkids fighting, RJ and Kiyomi. Sometimes you look up, they're
looking good.
and they do great form. In fact, in the tournament, they both took first place in forms. RJ took first in fighting. Kiyomi took second in fighting because she was intimidated by this big girl because she's small. But it's just the family's down there helping out, teaching all the time. So that's one of the things that people like about our school is they come down and go, wow, look at the whole family's involved in teaching. And we'll have 25 students on the floor. We'll separate them into 4 people here, and work with them separately. Yeah, so it's really nice.
Well, congratulations again on building such a great legacy and such a great family foundation for your school. And
I love it.
And all the best in all your future endeavors. Before we wrap up, if anybody is interested in coming to your school, where should they go? What website would you recommend, or page or something?
KingiKaju.com.
Okay.
KINGIKAJU.com.
Kingi Kaju. Okay, here we go. So let's take a little tour here. Going to the internet now. Here we are. So I just typed in Kingi Kaju into Google search. Boom. Kingi Kajukenbo Martial Arts School.
It is. Right.
Clicking here and bada bing. Here we are.
Yeah, there
Kingi Kajukenbo. You can check them out there. And it shows your programs, your scheduling, news and events, media gallery. Contact us. You can contact right there. You can click right there. And of course, if this is all too much for you because you're that lazy and you just want to watch a YouTube video, you can send me a message too, and I'll send you the link. I know some of you all are lazy, but you're gonna have to get over that, because if you go into Kingi and be lazy, that's not gonna last very long for you.
No, that won't last past the stretch.
Well, thanks again. And to my listeners, if you like what you heard, share and like with your friends. And I try to release about once a month, twice a month, sometimes every week, but I try to keep about one of these a month. So thank you very much.
Let me know when it's going to air, when you're going to have it out. And then maybe in the future we could talk about titles.
Oh, yeah.
grandmasters, professors, these senior grandmasters. I mean, I see guys that are senior grandmasters that haven't lifted their knee up higher than a step, let alone throw a kick. But they're claiming all this, and I mean, I see them, 500 pounds, and only showing pictures of the past, not today, not the future, what they're doing now. So I mean, this stuff irritates me so bad when I look on there. I go, oh my God, how's these guys? Where's the integrity left? I mean, where is it at?
So this Social Jello with Angelo podcast is going to end with a cliffhanger. All right, we're gonna to be continued. We're gonna have him come back, and we're gonna go a whole hour on just that topic. So there's your to be continued.
Yeah, we can do that. All right, brother. Much love and much appreciation to you.